Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Land Tamer stream. It is Sunday noon, our normal time for streaming, but we've got a limited series vlog we're working on right now for the next number of days. And happy to have you here. Get out your, hexadecimal decoder rings, and we've got our new cup of coffee here. So, thanks to the spouse. So, really looking forward to today's stream. What we're going to be talking about. So, this photo right here, wallpaper of the day. This is from the CiscoLive Twitter account. They did such a good job. Cisco marketing machine is something to behold, indeed. But this made me think of the written exam day because, excuse me, and I know my shirt's doing weird things right now, but this made me think of exam day because that was the first day, Sunday, for me. And I just remember the impression, the emotion of walking in, and I'll have certain visual images I'm sure will last a long time. But this was one, just the people there who greeted you, and they did such a good job logistically. And there was materials pickup. This is where, you see the bags. So we walk in, and you got to go to registration first, right? And these people were there, very happy and very eager to help, very friendly. You got your backpack. I already had a backpack, but so I had to put backpack in a backpack. But anyway, you got the registration, and then I had to find out, where am I taking the exam? But I'll talk about that in a moment. Let's go to this main screen here and just talk a little bit about this series. So this is a limited series vlog on this subject of first-timer CiscoLive experience. This is part 2. I'm calling yesterday part 1, which is just basically an introduction. And just to review, these are the topics I plan to be talking about. So in the drive share, there's a CiscoLive 2018 folder, and I have an outline of all the topics that I plan on covering. I don't know the order just yet, but each vlog each day will probably be one of these, or they might combine. But at the end, I'll create a YouTube playlist and send that out. So anybody is interested in a particular one of these, you may not want to listen to them all, especially if you're an attendee. But if you didn't get a chance to go, part of the motivation of doing this is providing some help to people. Maybe people will look back on this in 2019. This could be a tool for some new people who are trying to absorb the fire hose. And if they have any specific questions about the potential value of parts, one or more of these parts of CiscoLive, maybe this will be helpful to you. Also, before next year, there's going to be a lot of information released content coming out from CiscoLive. And as I mentioned before yesterday, some people may be interested in some of that. Someone may want my take on the breakouts, keynotes, DevNet, firewall, things like that, in particular related to this channel, this stream, which is certification for the CCIE routing and switching. So a lot of what I'm going to comment on is going to be with that perspective, and also some things that are very important in terms of my job. My employer is who sent me to this, which I really appreciate. And so I have a lot of information too that's pertinent to net DevOps. So hopefully that will be of some interest to you. And another reason is I'm just trying to absorb, even though I have another written exam scheduled, I have very limited time. I think this is important because, as I was telling everyone there, I'm still trying to just unpack the significance, the impact of what is CiscoLive, what it is to my career, what it is to the networking that happened, and what can I do going forward. So what actions do I need to take? And I think it's important to sit back and think about those things and act on them and plan. So y'all are helping me do this by allowing me to vlog here, stream here. And, I'd probably do this even if I wasn't streaming. I wouldn't be talking to myself, but I would be going through the same process. So, if it's of benefit to you, great. I hope it is. But that's the general outline of things. So I also mentioned a giveaway. I don't know what day it's going to be yet, folks. I think it's probably just going to be for subscribers. And it's going to be, there's a backpack. There may be a shirt or two. There's some other stuff in there that I want to give away just to show appreciation to the channel. Might have to fight my wife for some of it. I already gave her some things, but there's some cool stuff in there, and it has utilitarian purpose and it has just nerd purpose. So it's just some cool stuff. And they gave me some ideas too in the future. There were some really cool shirts that were handed out at the OSPF troubleshooting, Nick Russo's. I happened to get one of them. It's my favorite takeaway. I'm not giving that away, okay? I had it signed by Nick, and it's never being washed. I'm keeping it. But it gave me an idea, just to show appreciation to you folks, is we may do this in the future too on a regular basis, have some giveaways. Those shirts, there are two other really cool OSPF shirts that one of them was even better than mine. I think I was kind of jealous of the NSSA with the NASA, logo on there. So I may buy some of those because it's a CCIE who sells them, made the design. I may buy some of those and give them away here on stream just to show appreciation to you folks who encourage me. So anyway, that's what we're talking about is the lab. I'm checking on the stream here for just a moment. All right, it says recording. I think in the beginning, there was some lag here. I think we're okay now. So let's check on. Hey, Show. Good to have you on, man. My buddy Show. And can we see OSPF shirt at some point? Iskar Outpost 90. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I looked. They talked about this in Router Gods, and actually, there was an opportunity to order them before. I had no idea Nick was going to bring some to the session and give them away. But they're really cool. Let me see if I can find. I'm going to try to find the actual original order link and share that with you guys. I was looking for it yesterday on my mobile phone. Router Gods uses River, and there's so much content. It's so hard to sort through, and you can't really search on your phone. But I'll try to get those for you guys. And if not today, I'll post them tomorrow, or I'll post them on Twitter as well. Really cool shirts. And mine, let me pull up photos. It's funny because my tweet or my Instagram post about that shirt and my swag was included on the CiscoLive. It was included on the CiscoLive Instagram story, which I thought was pretty awesome. We got a lot of pictures, right? It might be on the CiscoLive channel here on Discord. Yeah, that was one of them. Yeah, I don't have the swag one, but see if I can pull it up. Ah, here we go. So this is the shirt, OSPF Area 51. And there's a cow being taken away up into the router. And this is Nick's signature. But yeah, now that we have this up, one cool thing I'm going to give away is these cool little MPLS blocks. So there was a session on VRF and MPLS fundamentals, and this was given away. I forget which question I answered or statement I made to get this, but I was purposefully being kind of boisterous. It's something you can do to get prizes, but I was awarded this, and this might be helpful to you if you're teaching. If you give classes, like I know Show, gives training at his job. If you're sort of an internal resource at your company and you do training, this could be a very useful thing to you and kind of helpful to have. I would keep it, but I don't have a lot of room where I live right now for storing this kind of stuff, so it's got to go. But yeah, there's some other cool stuff we'll be giving away. All right, so yeah, my motivation for doing this is, again, to sort of recap, help me unpack all that was the CiscoLive experience as a first-timer. And today's, of course, portion is talking about the exam experience. Now, just a couple things I wanted to say right off the bat, taking in an exam at CiscoLive. This is, of course, the CCIE Routing and Switching written exam, which is 400-001 in Pearson VUE. In terms of scheduling, I was very strategic about this. I wanted to do scheduling at the start, on the first day, at the very start of CiscoLive. I was able to do this because I had the full conference pass, which did not include additional technical breakout sessions or technical seminars. I could pay. You can pay for those. Excuse me. Additionally, and many people were doing that on Sunday. I know, Show, you were doing that, and I'm curious to hear. I'm hoping to hear like a review of yours on what you thought about that. I know you commented about that some on Twitter. So some people were doing that, and taking an exam on the same day as that was just not feasible. But I want to get mine out of the way. As a matter of fact, I scheduled it for 12:30 p.m. But when I got there, that was the first thing I did. It was kind of get my registration and then go to the exam location. I was there early, but I wanted to pinpoint it, know where it was, know how to get there, and certainly be back there in time. But I already noticed a line. This is like an hour early, like 11:30. I already noticed sort of a line forming. And what I realized is that the time slot of 12:30 was not so critical, as they weren't just scheduling you at 12:30 p.m. They were going to start the exams, I think, around 12, and then they were just going to move you in as soon as you could be processed. So I was not expecting as large as it was. Show was saying my Sunday tour was 8 hours long. I gave a short view of my sidewalk. Yeah, I did hear you mention about that. So yeah, I noticed one thing at the show that you said was that there was not as much hands-on, I guess, as you were hoping, which is good feedback. I was kind of curious about that. Curious if you would recommend paying for it, or if you would recommend asking an employer to pay extra to do some of the tutorials. Very curious about that. But so yeah, I did Sunday, and there was really a long line, and it was a little daunting at first. We were kind of you felt oftentimes during CiscoLive that you're kind of being herded to the next place, especially like the meals, which is necessary. There's just so many people. And that factor, I would say that CiscoLive is not the ideal place to take an exam overall in terms of the logistics. So anyway, they got this out there. There's a table. I felt they were not using the standard equipment, although it was perfectly adequate for what I was doing. I actually had 2 monitors, I believe. Maybe I had 1 monitor. No, but 2 monitors was for the walk-up self-paced labs. I had 1 monitor. That's all I needed for the written. But I don't know. It was just really far back, and I quickly, readjusted everything to my liking. But in the middle of the exam, it was kind of distracting because they had long tables. It's like cafeteria, like a school lunch cafeteria style layout. So they had very long tables lined up side by side, these long rows, and as quickly as they could, they got you seated where your exam was going to start. And then on the other side of the table was another set of tables, and they were joined together, essentially. So someone was sitting right across from me, and they had already started their exam, and at about halfway through their exam, this was a little distracting. Not much, though. I'm not saying that had any impact on my exam results, but it was just a little more difficult to concentrate. Halfway through the exam, someone who I really admire came to take their exam and sat directly across from me. So with the exception of the monitor, I was kind of looking at them. And it was Jordan Martin, BC Jordo from Network Collective. And my first inclination was to, I wanted to reach across and introduce myself to him. But I'm taking an exam, he's taking an exam, so it's not the ideal place in that respect in terms of logistics. They handled it very well, though. I heard that show that you actually had a technical issue when he walked in to take his exam, and there was a delay. It's natural. There's so many people taking exams. I mean, there's bound to be issues like that, of course, And they have very little time to recover from an issue of one person on a PC, and until the next person is coming to be on that PC. So the PC's and the exam software itself got hit pretty hard. But all in all, everything was fine in terms of the logistics of the exam. I didn't really feel this, I was so focused on trying to get a result that I didn't really allow a lot of that to distract me. So all in all, I mean, it's not the ideal place to take an exam, but it's fine. there's no reason not to take an exam at Cisco Live, especially because for me it was quote unquote free. Um, yeah, 40-minute delay. So to me, that's what show says here: complete network outage causing 40-minute delay. So I don't know if any of you here play golf. I know more IT people than I thought have come to find out play golf. And if you ever walk up to the tee box and then you have to wait on someone, it can be unnerving, especially when there's a lot on the line, right? So I understand, I get it. It's part of the mental test that is a Cisco exam. So fortunately for me, I walked right up. There was no problems, but yeah, that could be either bad or good depending on how you view it, right? So yeah, there's really no issue. I recommend definitely taking an exam if you have the opportunity at CiscoLive. I also had some interaction, some DMs with Jedediah Casey today because I was curious about taking the lab exam on site, which he did. And he may tell you more. He may choose to publish more about it because that could be a potential feasible thing for me in the future. I'm curious about the pros and cons of doing that versus at a normal proctored location. For me, this would have been ideal if I was ready because it was here in Orlando. I would not have to pay additional travel to take a lab exam. He said that the environment was fine. The proctor was there, seated in a corner. There were, I think, 8 workstations or so, 2 monitors, just like you would expect, and he had no problems taking a lab exam, a full lab exam on site either at CiscoLive. So I may do that as an option in the future if the timing is right, and if it will save me some money on travel, certainly. And of course, if I could get some sort of promotion or employer to help offset that using learning credits is another good reason to take a full lab exam at CiscoLive. I didn't even know really the option was available until I saw his Twitter and some of the things he said. By the way, he is at Wax Tracks. If you're not following, I know many of you are. Great Twitter feed, and he's getting ready for he failed exam. He's getting ready to plan another one and tweets about that considerably. So anyway, all that being said, apart from the downsides of the just scale of the exam environment and the potential distractions, one plus of taking the exam at CiscoLive is the ability to, one, if you fail like I did, get immediate consolation from your friends. So I will admit that, and this is natural, but after the fail, I guess I went in with unrealistic expectations about my ability to, about being able to pass where I'm at right now. So it was a letdown for me, and that's why I didn't stream the first couple of days because I was just trying to concentrate on recording what did happen and what I need to work on. So that was distracting, and I didn't really feel like streaming, to be honest. But the one nice thing about doing it at the beginning of CiscoLive is immediately following is I was able to talk to some people. There's a mentor or two, especially who gave me some great advice in terms of how to recover from a fail of the written and how to prepare for the next written. In particular, I have to call out Tom Ammon. Tom Ammon, as a matter of fact, he really got my mood lifted the next day because I happened to look on WebEx Teams. He had saw that I failed on Twitter and actually reached out to me. Quentin, I saw you fail. Is there anything I can do to help, with some of the weaker areas you're in? Please reach out. And I did, and I met with him for lunch the next day, and it just warmed my heart. Thank you so much, Tom. Tom Ammon, he has a blog, which is great. He's been blogging lately about putting Network Resume in the cloud. I should try to link him here. Yeah, here's his tomammon.net. So check him out. He's been around the community for a while and has always sort of taken an interest in my success and taken time out of his busy schedule. He had a lot going on at CiscoLive. He had a lot of different threads going, but he took time to meet with me at lunch and give me some good practical, advice on how to go forward and recover from an exam failure. So thank you so much, Tom. I don't know if you're listening, but you really lifted me up, and I appreciate it. So anyway, that is the other thing about taking an exam at CiscoLive. I want to be in particular about that with this particular vlog, and that is an advantage. So if you fail, you can seek advice the next day. Of course, no NDA, not breaking any NDA, just in general tips and, comparison of how people did and what, you can talk to someone who passed. What did they use to study? What was their source material that they used to study? Because I found out that the source material I used was definitely not enough, or at least I didn't retain it. So that is one advantage of taking an exam at CiscoLive, is the ability to get immediate feedback and mentoring from experts. I mean, I talked to several people who have passed many exams, who are IEs, multiple IEs, and they were able to give me some good advice. The exam itself. So I did fail. My score, I think, resulted was 754, if I remember right, which left me essentially 48 or 44 points short, something like that. But yeah, I actually went in with pretty high expectations that I was going to pass, probably unreasonably so, just because I guess I had relied very heavily on the certification guides. As many of you know, if you followed my basically 100 days of vlogging in preparing for the written, I had done the source materials I used were those cert guides, and I did get some good feedback on those. I talked to several people about the cert guides and their viability for passing the written exam. I had some interesting feedback on that. I'm not going to share all of it, but essentially that is not a one-size-fits-all for sure. It is good. It helped me in a lot of areas to understand some of the core principles, but those alone will certainly not get you to pass exam in probably most cases, okay? Also relied heavily on the Boson exam system, which is awesome, but it really helped me to identify. I had a lot of weak areas. Many of you may have seen me go through the blueprint checklist and mark C's in all the areas that I felt really weak in. Even after doing that, the Boson helped me to find more C's. And oftentimes I'd find a weak area, and then I would use that exam to help pinpoint the weak areas and go do follow-up study using the cert guides, or using, even in some cases, RFCs and things like that. So I did that, and that was not enough. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned before, to several people who heard me say this, I think it was 2 days before the written exam that, just as a final review, I took all 500. I did a custom exam in Boson. I did all 500 questions. I got very few of them wrong. And I felt really good about my formerly weak areas like multicast and QoS, evolving technologies. I felt really solid in those areas. So my expectations were pretty high, but the reality set in after about, like I've told people, 10 minutes. About 10 minutes, I'd already gone through several questions, and I think they impacted me emotionally a little bit. They got me a little off my game. There was some shock and awe in the first 10 minutes. I'm not gonna lie, and that was due to the types of questions I was getting asked. To be honest, a lot of them to me in the beginning seemed very niche, somewhat outliery, you might say, in terms of, kind of what I think of as the mainstream topics in the blueprint. And there was some shock and awe. I was like, wow, I'm in trouble. Because I kept thinking, okay, maybe that's an experimental question. Okay, show, yeah. So hopefully, and I'm glad you mentioned that, show, because I don't feel so much, like it was just me. And people have told me that about the practical exam. People have told me that the practical exam, in particular the config session, is emotionally overwhelming, mentally overwhelming when you first read the config section of the practical exam. I was not expecting that in the written. And man, it floored me. I mean, I thought, wow, there was even one question, and in talking to some other people there at CiscoLive about this and telling them my experience, they said, well, you know, I had one that was an acronym. I believe it was a 4-letter acronym, and I'm assuming it's describing a protocol, but I'd never seen it before. At least, maybe I have, but I did not recall it at all. Like, I looked at the question, and even I looked at the multiple choice answers, and that still did not clue me in whatsoever on what the acronym was. And as others mentioned to me, Quentin, you know, if you see a question like that, do your best deductive reasoning or inductive reasoning, whatever the case may be, select an answer, move on, chalk that up to an experimental question. You know, they tell you that at the beginning in the instructions, that there may be experimental questions. So, but still, I would go to the next exam here in the next question, the first 10 minutes, and I was like, whoa, yes, okay. Just to give, you know, an example, let's say OSPF, for example. Yes, I've studied OSPF, you know, deeply, in depth. And I would get a question, for example, about one particular feature of OSPF that, or, you know, maybe it was a message, and I was like, wow, I didn't see that really covered much, if at all, in the official cert guide. You know, this must be from a TAC call, or this must be, I mean, so I kept getting those in the beginning, one after the other, and it threw me off a little bit. I wasn't on my mental game, I think, and so I attribute some of my reasons for failure to that, and just not going broadly enough. I think I've gone deep into a lot of things that I thought were, you know, that I knew I was weak on, but I didn't get really hit much at all in those areas. That was part of the shock too. Like, I felt like, okay, I'm weak in, you know, I'm weak in multicast. I'm weak in, you know, IGMP. I'm weak in PIM. I'm weak in, you know, routing with IPv6, things like that. Not that I didn't get questions related to those, but I didn't get many. And that's luck, I know, because as many of you know, with the written exam, there's probably a very large data bank of questions. And at the next exam, which happens to be in 36 days, I probably will not get any repeat questions. And they could be a large portion of questions on those protocols. But I went deep with those. I just felt like I did not go broad enough. And as many have said to me while I was there, and I was getting consolation and crying on people's shoulders to an extent, I said, yeah, Quentin, there is some luck involved, because the CCIE topics are so broad, and they could go as deep as they want, that you just never know what you're going to get. But, you know, I've got to study something. So I'm going to rely heavily on my notes that I took immediately afterwards, and to show others, like, Quentin, you like disappeared off the map. What happened? Well, I just got into, I was still in that focus mode. I found a chair. Like, I walked, I don't know, across the venue. I found a chair. I tried to block everybody out. I got as quiet as place as I could. And I pulled out my phone, the Apple Notes app, and I just started writing. Like, okay, I remember this question. I remember this question. I remember this question. So that is going to be my strategy sort of going forward. And we're getting into, you know, future exam planning here. That is going to be my strategy going forward. And like others have told me with the written, and I've gotten encouragement, you know, watching Show's journey as well. Be sure to follow him on YouTube. He had some, by the way, Show had some great, while I was, you know, kind of in my head the first couple of days, you know, suturing my wounds, Show was out there, man. Good job he was vlogging. He started like day 1, day 2, was vlogging every day. And I'm like, okay, thank you, Show. You know, you're helping me get back into my game. I promised to vlog from there. So I got back on some solid footing. I think by day 3, I was doing my own vlogs. But I was talking to several people watching their journey, and they told me, like some people tell me, yeah, Quentin, I failed the exam. One very respected CCIE told me, yeah, I failed it. I failed it twice. I got it on the third exam. So, Iscropus 90 has some feedback. If you haven't been using them, Cisco Docs, config guides, command references, etc., are really good study tools for a lot of stuff to complement books, RFCs, etc. I'm using them for route, and they're super helpful. That's a very great tip, Iscropus, and in actuality, that's what one of the people I talked to told me, is that all they have to do for a written question, some of these written questions, is they can take a line out of the Cisco Docs or the command reference. They can find like one of the least used commands and ask you a question about one of the options in that command, just as an example. That's why you have to be so broad in your study of the written. But yes, I'm going to take that advice, Iscropus. As a matter of fact, there were, I would say, 2 or 3 commands that I wrote down, like specific commands that I definitely already know I have to go read the Cisco documentation for. But yes, there's some others. And it's interesting. We did talk about that, I think, at the Network Collective table, which I'm going to vlog about later. But, we talked about how some of the RFC and the Cisco documentation I'd have to include, some of it is really well written. You get a broad scope. Some of it is really poorly written, including typographical and grammatical errors. But there are some really, really good Cisco docs out there, so I will be leveraging those, and I'll be sharing that with you as well. But going forward, yes, I took heart that some of the respected CCIEs that I know, and I know Show's going to be a CCIE too, and he passed on his third, they were telling me, Quentin, hey, I failed the written. And it's funny, one person in particular told me that the first written exam that they took, they expected to fail. Because I don't think it was CiscoLive. It was, they had actually scheduled the exam, but some things had come up in their life, and, as we all here know, happens. And they didn't really have an opportunity like they wanted. So they failed. They kind of expected to fail, but then they scheduled the second one not too long after that, and took time off work and hit like really hard. Took notes, and they hit the exam topics like really hard. And this person went into the second exam, kind of like me in my first, naively. He went into the second expecting to pass because he'd already taken one. He kind of knew what was expected, and he had just formulated his pass plan for the second round, what he had done on the first, and he failed the second one, and that hit him hard. He said so, but later he got, he just got back on the horse and scheduled the third, and then passed the third exam. So anyway, guys, I've got a family event I got to do here shortly. We're gonna have to cut this short. You'll probably appreciate that, but that's my plan. I went ahead and scheduled a day. I thought it was $400 for some reason, but it's $450. Purchased, scheduled it, 36 days out. Like I mentioned before, I don't want to wait too long because August 30th, the Evolving Technologies portion or module is going to be updated. So I've given myself basically 2 months for 2 attempts, and we're going to hit it, man. I will be vlogging about it here, and you'll get to watch my journey. And thank you so much, guys, for the input. I wouldn't have recovered as quickly as I did and enjoyed as much CiscoLive without the moral support that I got from the Land Tamers folks and everybody else, the other people that I met. So that's really important, and that is one big advantage to taking the exam at CiscoLive. You can't buy that. So that's why, all in all, I would definitely recommend, if you have the opportunity, or even if you're scheduling an exam in the future, maybe you plan to take a lab a year from now, or you're targeting a date for taking the written for the first time, CiscoLive is an option you may want to think about seriously. And Cisco's not paying me for this. No one is advocating me. This is my objective opinion, and will remain so on the rest of these vlogs and a first-timer Cisco Live experience and all the parts. One meat chunk today. This sale is ending at midnight tonight Eastern time. I haven't even had time to go through this, but this is a Cisco Press sale. Today's the day, guys. There's 65% on simulators and video training, 40% on ebooks and practice tests. I don't even know all that this comprises, to be honest, but I want to come in here later and see. And it says Cisco Live attendees. I don't think you have to be an attendee. I could be wrong. And I'm sorry if you go here and take the time to shop and then try to buy it and you can't. But I would say, check it out. I really wanted to buy one of Russ White's books. I almost bought it there at the Cisco store because they had a discount. But I found it cheaper, I think, on Amazon or something like that. But, just always compare, of course. But, yeah, there's some good books out here. Take advantage of that. That's the only meat chunk I have for today. And that's going to about wrap it up, folks. Thanks so much for your support. Thanks for hanging out. Tomorrow, let's see. Tomorrow we'll probably vlog about... I'll probably talk about the keynotes because I spent some time today catching one of the keynotes I missed and rewatching one of the other ones. My wife actually watched them with me and enjoyed them, in particular the closing keynote. So I'll talk about those tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out, folks. I wish you the best in your own studies and your planning. I know you might be sort of recovering from maybe you went to Cisco Live or it's the weekend, but got to plan your work, work your plan, and stay on it, guys and gals. Thanks so much for hanging out. We shall see you back here tomorrow on the normal time in the Land Tamer stream.